Okay, let's do this again. 2 is there. On the side. Good start. I actually had a sort of plan for what I was going to talk about today, but I changed my mind based on what I had talked about yesterday, which actually reminds me, there was a message. A comment left on the video from yesterday about personal ritual, that they were coming up with a sort of schedule for how to start their mornings. And so, being me, I thought I would give some unsolicited advice, which of course should be sort of cleared even a little better. I don't know. With the people who are in their life giving real advice as opposed to internet person, which is, I think, is a great idea. But it can be overwhelming for a million reasons, but there's 2 things specifically I thought that could be helpful to come up with that plan, which is, one, to have your plan, but only try to implement 1 or 2 things to start. And then once that sort of become your norm, then add the extra 1 or 2 things until you get up to the 6 or 7 or whatever it is that you wanted to do. And the other thing, and this will come up actually, I don't plan really what I'm going to do during this month. It's more like I sort of come up with concept ideas that maybe I'll go over. But one of the things that it actually, what is this? One of the things I will be talking about relates to this, which is don't get caught up in the I have to do everything on this list thing. That 80% is great. And, that's better than 0. And 5% is better than 0. And, keep that in mind. You don't have to be perfect every day. And you don't have to think, oh, there's my cat, that if you don't do absolutely everything on the list perfectly the way that you plan, that means it's a fail, because that will stop you, because you'll be like, okay, if I start, then I've got to do the whole thing. No, if you start, then that's great. And if that doesn't mean you have to do it all, and it doesn't mean you have to do it all in the same order, and each day is different. And it's really great to come up with a plan, but don't sort of beat yourself up if you don't follow everything in order. And I'm over talking about this. And how about I get to what the topic at hand is today, which also probably seems like super specific and it applies to me, but it really does not. And the topic is, why does travel work for me? And there's probably a bunch of people out there that are going, yeah, but I never travel, so this has nothing to do with me. Except I really think it does. Oh, this thing is a Christmas tree. No, I don't know what these are before I start them, by the way. Because this, and this is going to sound like a hocus pocus, I'm sure, when I first say it, but if you think about it, I think that it will make sense, which is this. There is a concept out there in the world that people only use like 20%, or, oh no, cat, don't get on here, 10% of their brain power at any point. And that's why they have, all these movies about, wouldn't it be great if somebody could use all of their brain at once, etc. But in reality, um, what's actually happening is that there's sort of a max capacity that your brain can work at. So they say 10% of your brain or whatever. That doesn't mean that you're not using all of your brain at different points. It means that at any given time, you're only using this small portion of your brain. If that makes any kind of sense at all. It makes sense to me, which is probably not high praise for that concept. Because, I mean, you see me trying to do this puzzle and I suck at it. But that's upside down. The thing is that when I'm traveling, and you would imagine that I would have like a major avoidant personality disorder type response to that. The reason I think that I don't have what would be expected, and the reason I think that it works for me to do all the traveling, is that, again, my brain can only do so much at any given time. And I think that when I'm traveling, what's happening is that I'm using this extra portion of, the capacity of my brain power, is being basically jammed up with whatever I'm actually seeing and participating with. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense to me that what I might be doing is actually using up so much of my brain power in the process of traveling and being tired and seeing new things and, go to museums or whatever it is that I do, that there basically isn't enough brain power left for me to have a normal avoidant personality type response to whatever's happening. Like, there's just not any space left to react that way. And I don't know, I think I've learned how to use being overstimulated to my advantage, and that I can then sort of find a way to exist in the world. I think that's a no. Better? No. Again, I'm not really winning at doing the puzzle and speaking at the same time. And if it's really annoying, I'm really, really sorry. And let me know if it's really bad. I can stop with this format and try to do something that's more traditional, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that I'm using up my capacity, and so I just don't have anything left over to have an avoidant response, which maybe is crazy for me to even think that way, and maybe it's crazy for me to think that's positive, but I think that's what it works. And the other thing is, when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I've always made it sort of like a personal challenge. I don't think I realized what I was doing when I was coming up with this concept, that I would try and challenge myself to do something that I found scary. I said, you know, that was, I'm describing it in a weird way because it is weird. It's like who would do that? But I really did. It was like did not count as a successful trip if I did not do something that scared me while on my trip. And I think what that is about, does that actually go there? No. I think what that was about is that even if I'm doing something completely radically different, um, you know, way out of what would be my comfort zone, um, you get used to it. At some point, you get used to it. And it's sort of kind of normal again. So, what I think happens is that I need to do something that would, again, is this even in the picture at all? No, I'm doing this whole thing and it's not even in. I'm sorry. I think I'll get used to this one of these years. Um, so yeah, I think that's the point of it. Is that I do something scary and it stops the normalcy of being on a trip. And I think that's why I do these strange sort of, they're not really extended trips, but they kind of are. That, I won't say go to one location and just like hang on the beach for however long. I don't do that kind of ever. I don't ever do that kind of trip. Um, but instead I'm either going, or the other option is that like I don't know if you've seen them. I'll go to one city and just not stop, and I'll be going, all day, all night, like a mad person. Or I'll do something like one of these trips that I've been going on more recently that is multiple cities. So like when I went to Hawaii, I did a road trip. I actually went to 2 different islands, and I went all over the place. And I'm pretty sure, in retrospect, now that I think about it, that that's what I was doing, was trying to come up with a way to keep the novelty going, and so that it would continue to make my sort of, I guess, my brain react as if it was a completely new situation again. So I was actually able to do it. To say that as simply as possibly and as sad as possibly. With this sad little puzzle that doesn't go. Or does it? See, that seems to fit. Not, I don't know. This is, I would say, a critique of this puzzle is that these pieces, where they're so tiny, it sort of makes it very easy to put them in the wrong places. Oh well, wine. Yeah, so now yesterday I was rambling and kept going on and on and on, and now I've made my topic. It actually and responded to another comment, and now I'm done early. And I still don't even know if you can see the puzzle because of I don't have a camera that lets me see what I'm doing when I'm not exactly where it should be. And now I've got all these extra side pieces that are going to be a little bit to get in where they should be. Ah, it's so sad. I'm so sorry. And, you know, in theory, this would have worked out really well. Where did I put that? I can see what the edges are looking like. I don't even know which one it is on here. To see what's on the bottom here. So I don't know that it's even helping me to do this. To look at a picture. Is that, I think this one's up here. I'm not sure. So anyway, now I feel like I'm kind of like wasting your time or something while I try to finish this up. I don't know if it would be better if I was much quicker at this or worse. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not supposed to go. Oh, there's another middle spot. I still think that goes there. But I don't think it goes there. Possible. Wait, maybe this goes here. There we go. That goes there and this goes there. I'm getting it eventually. I'm getting it. So yeah, I know I talk about the traveling quite a bit. There's a part of me that feels like I might be considered bragging about it. That is not the intention, to say the least. I would imagine that would go there. Oh, it does go there. This is probably the saddest thing ever, right? But it actually, I mean, it was one of those things in therapy that I discovered that it did help, like, tremendously to travel. And it was just bizarre. I mean, it shouldn't work that way. I am, avoidant. I should have a normal avoidant reaction, but I don't. And I think, like I said, I think that's why. I think that I think that I can override it because I've jammed up everything. That's why I do very sort of packed trips. Can you see this at all? And I think that I do things like I go to museums. I go through them very fast, and I try to see I'll go to like 4 or 5 different museums in one day on a trip, because I am jamming up and filling up the space of my brain so that there is enough space to have the reaction that I would normally have. And I mean, it's definitely something you have to do, because if I didn't, then I something would happen when I was on the trip. Something would happen where I would shut down. In the very least, I wouldn't actually participate, and it would be useless. But it could also be something very negative and bad could happen. if I really gave into the avoidant impulses. Um, and so that's why it's such a release to me. And I understand that. Again, I've always said there's basically, I mean, in a lot of different ways, it's very common for people to either have sort of an almost agoraphobic type of avoidant personality disorder, or something that's like me, where it's like you either can only be sort of comfortable um, when you're around your family and friends that you've known forever, or that's the worst. They are the worst. They bring the worst out of you, and what you need to do is be around strangers. And for some reason, strangers make everything easier and better for you. Um, and I think that maybe has something to do with it. Um, you know, depending on the level of trauma and where you got your trigger to have avoidance in the first place. Um, that definitely has something to do with it. If you're around people that are making things worse for you, then you're going to have a worse time being around them. But if you're only feeling safe around the people that you've known forever, then you know the anxiety is so high um, that it shuts down your functioning, but not the avoidant personality disorder type reaction. So you are super anxious, you're super avoidant, and you can't function if you're in crowds. I get it. That's what's going on, because you just, again, there's a certain limit of what you can handle all at once. Um, if that's the case, I mean, obviously, me, it's traveling that I found is sort of the sweet thing that I can pretty much depend on, that go somewhere, eventually I'm going to be overwhelmed to the point where I don't have an avoidant reaction. And again, I feel very okay with that, because if I'm never going to see the people I'm around again, if I make a fool out of myself, who cares? Nobody's ever going to know about it. I'll never have it thrown back in my face like it would happen if I did something abnormal, let's call it that, around my family. Um, so if travel doesn't do it for you, and you're in the second category, or the first category, I don't know how you categorize it. What I would suggest that you do is try to find something that again jams up the space in your brain, and you have to use it in order to um, give yourself peace and a break. And I don't mean you need to do it every day, because I think it loses its effectiveness. Because again, you get used to it. That's why I have to do the whatever it is that scares me, so I don't get comfortable with it. But it's like, every once in a while, give yourself a break. You can find out what it does. I mean, maybe it's some sort of massive mental challenge. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's something really, truly physical, where, like, if you're, exercise to a certain point that you're so physically exhausted, and like feeling pain in your body because of how you've exercised or something, that might be again enough that it's taking up your brain capacity to the point where the avoidant sort of symptoms sort of drop out. um, I think it's personal for each person. So try to look for that and see if there's something, because and again, I with avoidant personality disorder, basically everything for me, it helps to know. It helps to know, give it a name. This is what it is. I'm not the only one. So if you know, and you can use this as a strategy to say, okay, I can do this thing. It's going to cause me to have so much sort of mental work to do it that the avoidance is going to drop. Then you can do that. And you know what? I think that substance use could very well be one of the things. And it's that, physically you're using up so much space, and in your brain you're using up so much space trying to process whatever chemical you put in your body, that it stops the avoidant reaction just because there isn't enough space left in your brain to have an avoidant reaction. And this is a theory. I've never seen this in any sort of documentation. I don't know, but I think that's what's going on with me. So maybe you could find something in yourself. So first I ran out of things to talk about, and then I kept talking after I finished the puzzle. I don't know. And I still don't think it was like centered when I was making it. I hope this was helpful. Maybe by the end of this, I'll actually have it down. I'll know what to do. I'll have the correct amount of time for me to talk, and I'll actually have it centered, and you'll actually be able to see what I'm doing. Anyway, have a good night. And I'll put up another video. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.